Well, I just watched, well, not just now, but I watched the Continental Sunday night, and I've had some time to think about it. The last episode, that is, because I didn't see it on Friday. I forgot about it. I feel like that says something about the show already. So, let's just get into it. This was a huge disappointment for me. But there were some things I liked, and I'm going to just point that out immediately. Just for now, because I'm going to talk about a lot of things I didn't like. So, I loved the soundtrack. I thought they had a fantastic soundtrack. The intro was really good. And also, of course, the action. I don't think these movies could ever get the action wrong, personally. I feel like it'd have to be impossible. But it was pretty awesome here still. The gun fu was awesome. Of course, that was my favorite part. But I was shocked by how many parts of it didn't involve guns. A lot of it actually is hand-to-hand combat, and that's it. And I thought that was an interesting choice, and some of it I didn't like. Some of it getting on weird superhero, almost malignant at times feeling combat, like this one person who's pops their bones all around. I was like, this is kind of a weird, different direction from John Wick, which is definitely fiction, duh, but has some sense of realism. Like, this could technically happen, and it feels real almost, like, very deep and complicated, but real. And I love that this is somewhat of a deep dive into it. Not really, but like, for example, I want this to be more of a deep dive into the Continental, and it shows us how Winston got it, but it's not a big deep dive into this universe, which is what I wanted it to be. Like, all the John Wick movies expand on it perfectly. The first one sits fine just as it is, doesn't need a sequel, and just kind of seems like this shady, almost underground criminal society. 2, getting into a real, like, this is something different. And 3, obviously showing this is international. And 4, again, just boom, with more action and not exploring too much more, other than more of the roles of certain people and the hierarchy. But enough sucking John Wick 4's massive cock. That movie was awesome, by the way. Loved it. Probably my movie of this year, because I'm a total fucking John Wick simp. But I loved those movies. The Continental, I did not love. And now that I've gotten some positives on it, 2 positives that all of the movies get, let's talk about the Continental. First off, first episode, fine enough, and I'm not going to go digging too deep into the plot. I might go into some spoilers, but I'm going to try to avoid them as much as possible. I'll start off with dumb writing. The John Wick movies have decent writing. I mean, it's not the most intelligent stuff, but it is smart, and there is a lot of stuff that is a bit more complicated, especially with John Wick as a character and expanding him. Here, they try to do that, and these episodes are really big, by the way, each of them being about as big as the first movie, an hour and 30-ish minutes. But I feel like it fails to expand a ton of characters it has in here, which is expected, not every single one, but it even fails to really expand Winston. It shows somewhat of a progression from episode 1 to episode 3, but I feel like the writing is really dumb, and though it tries to make these characters really cool and charismatic, it flops on that. Take Winston. One of the advertisements, a big line in it, usually at the end of these trailers, is Winston at a drink. There's a woman on the bed saying, well, what are you waiting for? And he's like, I haven't finished my drink. And it's supposed to come off as super sexy and, like, sleek and smooth. Kind of like how Winston in the John Wick movies is pretty sleek and smooth. He's fucking smooth as hell. He's classy and charming. This Winston comes off not nearly as charming, which is expected. No one's gonna immediately beat that off, but he comes nowhere near half, or I'd even say a quarter, of that level. It also doesn't help a lot of these lines are dumb. Like, some of them are just stupid, and also, by the way, some of the lines are reused from the movies, obviously supposed to be a kind of, oh, he said the line from John Wick Chapter 3 when he says, I need guns, lots of guns. Only in here, it doesn't come off as cool as Keanu Reeves says it. It comes off as forced. Like, it's not supposed to be here, and it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel natural. And a big flaw with episode 1, by the way, is the end fight scene. This is a bit spoils into what it is, kind of-ish. It's an end one, sort of, in a car chase. It's it's shot weirdly, which sucks because the car action scenes, I'd argue, are some of the best in the John Wick franchise, such as the end of John Wick 1, beginning of John Wick 2, and lots of John Wick 4. But here, it kept shotting, like, camera going black up, keep, like, flashing forward super quickly. And I know they don't have all the time in the world and probably not as big of a budget, I'm not sure, though it was definitely a big budget. It feels really disappointing and forgettable. In fact, a lot of the show does. Same with a lot of lines, even the dumb ones that are like, where did this come from? Fucking Tuesdays! And some other lines that just didn't feel entirely like, why? This is a pointless line. Some other dumb plot points. For example, there's a sniper character who's introduced in episode 2. Some stupid lines. He gets involved, which, by the way, this isn't spoilers at all, because, I mean, this is revealed in the trailer that Winston's taken over the Continental and put together this group of people on this almost suicidal mission that's never been done before. And the sniper guy, who's an old guy with a mustache, he gets into it because he's like, well, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, we're not doing much. Don't worry about it. It's just kind of a dumb mission. Join if you want, I guess. And he's like, well, I guess I'll join then. And then the guy walks off, and the sniper guy's just like, oh, well, you just played me, didn't you? It's a dumb fucking moment. It doesn't make any sense. He didn't have to join. It feels he joins for no reason at all. He has barely any connection to this. I feel that's how it is for a lot of the characters, too. A lot of these characters don't feel like they have a real connection to Winston and his... his brother and whatnot, or them at all, or a serious connection, one that would make sense for them to join this. And nor did these characters some of these characters not know each other enough that if, let's say, only one ends up dying, it's not nearly as emotional, or kind of one-ish, by the final episode, and it's supposed to be more emotional when Winston gets to them, yet it feels whatever, because we barely knew them. And that's an issue with these shows. I feel like Doctor Who, the newest one, which J.D. Whittaker, I believe was her name, I think she was a fine enough doctor. The issue was all the characters. Because of so many characters in a show, and these episodes not focus on each individually, because that'd be repetitive and boring at a certain point, you're never really gonna be fully able to expand these characters. We will never know them completely, and so if something like this happens, or especially with only a 3-episode show, there's definitely not enough time to expand all of these characters and really care about them, especially with the dumb fucking writing, that it doesn't matter to us. We don't care about it. And so I thought that was an overall stupid thing about this show that really did make it super disappointing for me. Because take John Wick, those movies, I cared about those characters. Even in John Wick 1, when a certain character, funny enough, a fucking sniper character, the movie was able to make me enjoy them somewhat, but maybe because of the absolutely fantastic acting of William Dafoe, Sir William Dafoe. I don't know, is that just an SNL skit, or is he actually a knight? I'm gonna have to Google this afterwards, but it just felt meh. And the actors aren't half bad or anything, it's just, I feel the writing, the lack of charisma in these lines, and I feel like Winston's parts also aren't always the best. He delivers lines sometimes almost toneless, almost nothing. Like, haven't finished my drink. It just feels... That line, I feel like he didn't deliver it very well. And the guns, lots of guns. The episode, at the end of episode 1, when he says that, feels really forced and feels not at all natural for him at all. And I don't know. Even by the end of the show, it doesn't feel like we have the Winston that we know. And that was a big bummer for me, too. This is a weird complaint as well, just a nitpick. It was only really in episode 2 that it felt, and maybe it was the light in my room, maybe it was the TV acting up, I don't know, it could have been my side of things. But I'm gonna just say I have a good damn TV, with really good internet that I don't think it was mine, but I noticed in episode 2, and there was a scene that's supposed to be like that, but it feels sometimes too dim. Only in episode 2, though, especially with some fight scenes, when it felt far too dim in certain scenes when I couldn't see anything. This may have been a decision on their part, and one fight scene it definitely is a intentional decision, but I overall didn't like it, and it just took away from the experience. It made me feel like I could look down at my phone and play around with whatever puzzle game I have on my phone, and instead of watching it. And that happened multiple times when I stopped watching the show. I took my eyes away from it, and that never happens with the John Wick movies. That never happens with any of that. And so I feel like this is proof that this John Wick formula, if it's only action, it's not going to work. You need the smart lines. You need the charismatic characters. You need the great actors. You can have action. You can have the good music and some badass moments like that and good bloody kills. But unless you have the characters, the charisma, unless you have all the smart things about a gun fu movie like John Wick, then it kind of falls apart. And why would I watch this when I have so many other options like John Wick? Overall, I enjoyed it at some moments, but it was extremely disappointing. And disappointing doesn't necessarily mean bad, but in this case, my expectation was clearly too high. And after watching a movie that was fucking spectacular, with beautiful cinematography, fantastic writing, and the John Wick series has great character development, in my opinion, how I view it at least, and it really just, it's wonderful. This just didn't hit the spot, and because of that, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10, which is below average, and I was expecting only maybe a 5 for this is just average. But I don't know, it obviously didn't hit the spot in the slightest for me there, and I feel like it's being held back just by a few things, like the dumb writing, and some nitpicks, and also lack of charisma. I feel like because of that, it's just dropping behind for me, and it makes me seriously worry about the future of the spin-off series, such as the new Ballerina movie. And I'm also, by the way, praying, just like almost everyone else, for no John Wick 5. I pray it doesn't happen. And if Keanu isn't in it too, then I don't consider it John Wick 5, and in that case, I don't count it. But the Continental, I just wanted to point out something, that this is not from the director, no Keanu. A lot of the people from those movies aren't working on this. And so the Continental, maybe it says it's subtitled The Continental from the world of John Wick. Well, it may be from the universe of John Wick, but it's not from the makers.